Korean Mafia boss said to Falisade Okoye, I haven't felt my manhood in 3 years until I met you. What did you do to me? Mafia boss cried. The rain in Seoul never fell gently, it always felt like a warning. Heavy. Cold. Relentless. Like the sky was trying to wash the entire city clean, of its sins, its secrets, its monsters. And Falisade Okoye was caught right in the middle of it. Her umbrella had flipped inside out 5 minutes ago. Her jacket was soaked. Her tote bag of sample pastries, what she hoped would impress the judges for the culinary program, was nearly slipping from her wet fingers. Tonight was supposed to be her chance to prove herself. Instead, everything felt like a losing battle. She muttered under her breath, God, why today? Lightning split the sky as she hurried across the crosswalk, squinting through the sheets of rain. She told herself she would reach the bus stop in 2 minutes, 3 at most. But fate didn't care about her time or her plans. Because under the yellow glow of a flickering street lamp stood a man who would shatter her entire life into before and after. A tall figure. So unmoving. A black coat hugging his broad shoulders, rain dripping off the sharp angles of his jaw. Falisade slowed. Something about him felt heavy. Like a storm inside the storm. She didn't know his name. Not yet. But the whole of Seoul whispered about him with trembling voices. Baek Do-hwan. The White Serpent King. The cold, emotionless mafia boss who hadn't touched, felt, or reacted to anything in 3 long years. A ghost wearing a man's skin. Falisade didn't recognize him. She wasn't Korean, didn't follow underworld rumors, and honestly didn't care. To her, he was just a stranger who looked like he'd stepped out of a tragic film scene. She clutched her bag tighter. Just walk past him. Don't stare. Don't bother. But as she hurried, her foot caught on a loose tile. Her ankle twisted and she stumbled forward. Her tote bag flew from her hand. Glass jars shattered on the wet pavement. Oh no, 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 she gasped, dropping to her knees. Please don't do this to me. She gathered pieces with trembling fingers, rain soaking her hair, her clothes, even the pastry she had worked so hard on. Her throat tightened painfully. Tonight was officially ruined. She didn't notice the man move. But he noticed her. Do-hwan had been standing in the rain for over an hour, unable to feel the cold, the wetness, the wind, nothing. He felt nothing anymore. Doctors had told him the nerve damage from the bullet wound would heal. It never did. Therapists told him emotional trauma took time. Time didn't help. He had become a breathing corpse. Until a sound cut through his numbness. A soft voice. A frustrated whisper. A woman's breath catching in disappointment. He turned his head slowly. And for the first time in 3 years, something inside his chest gave a faint, reluctant tremor. She didn't look special in the way expensive men judged beauty. She looked real. Warm. Alive. Her dark skin glowed under the street lamp despite the rain. Her hair clung to her cheeks. Her fingers shook as she tried to salvage her broken pastries. Do-hwan frowned. Not because of her distress, but because his heart pulsed. He blinked. Once. Twice. Harder. A sensation spread across his ribcage like a warning flare. Impossible. He took 1 step toward her. She gasped at the boots appearing in front of her face. Looking up slowly, she found herself staring at a pair of cold, unreadable eyes under dark, wet hair. Eyes that held the weight of someone who'd lived through war. She swallowed. I'm sorry, she stammered. I'm blocking your way. I'll move. Are you hurt? He asked. His voice was deep. Ragged in a way that suggested he rarely used it to speak softly. I'm fine, she said, though her ankle throbbed. Just clumsy. He didn't answer. Because he couldn't. Not when her voice rolled through his body like heat. Not when his hand twitched, the first involuntary movement in years. Not when warmth prickled across his skin in places he thought were long dead. His breathing hitched. He staggered, grabbing the lamppost. Boss? One of his men called from the shadows. Falisade's eyes widened. Oh my God, are you okay? She reached forward instinctively, touching his forearm. The world snapped. A violent shock of sensation, raw, electric, overwhelming, shot through Do-hwan's nerves. His entire body jerked as if awakening from a 3-year coma. He sucked in a harsh breath. A trembling breath. A feeling breath. His heart rammed against his ribs. His chest burned. His throat closed up. His knees almost buckled. This was sensation. This was life. This was heat, fire, blood rushing, nerves screaming awake after years of silence. His men panicked. Boss, what's wrong? Is it happening again? He's shaking. Someone help. But Do-hwan barely heard them. His entire focus locked on the woman staring up at him with terrified concern. Her hand was still on his arm. Her warmth spread through him like a wildfire. His body responded everywhere. And then, shame, relief, fear. His eyes glistened before he could stop it. No, not tears. He hadn't cried in years. Palisade leaned in. Sir, should I call? Don't move, he whispered. His voice cracked like something fragile breaking open. She froze. Duhuan bowed his head, rain dripping from his hair to her shoulder. His breath brushed her neck, sharp, uneven, trembling. You, he whispered. What did you do to me? Palisade stared at him, completely lost. I didn't do anything. You touched me, he said, voice hoarse. And I felt it. Thunder rolled across the sky. But nothing was louder than the heartbeat Duhuan hadn't felt in 3 years, now pounding so hard he swayed. He lifted his head slowly, painfully. For 3 years, he said softly, my body has been dead. His gaze dropped to her hand still on him. And then you touched me, and I woke up. Her lips parted in shock. She didn't understand the weight of what he said. She didn't understand that this moment would pull her into a world she wasn't prepared for, a world where love and danger walked hand in hand. She didn't understand that a man who hadn't felt anything in years, pain, pleasure, emotion, desire, had just felt everything at once because of her. And she certainly didn't understand that as she stood there, drenched in rain and confusion, a Mafia king was staring at her like she was the only thing keeping him alive. His voice cracked again. What did you do to me? He whispered. Then, in a sight no one living had ever seen, Baek Duhuan's eyes filled with tears. The limousine wasn't just a luxury vehicle, it was a moving fortress. Bulletproof glass. Reinforced panels. A silence so heavy it pressed against the lungs. Palisade sat stiffly on the leather seat, her hands clasped together, her wet clothes clinging to her skin. Every breath she took felt too loud in the quiet tension filling the air. Across from her sat Baek Duhuan, still trembling. Still staring at her like she was an answer he didn't know he'd been searching for. His men, usually stone-faced, were visibly shaken. Not because he was unwell, but because Baek Duhuan never showed weakness. Never faltered. Never allowed anyone to see behind the mask. But right now every part of him looked undone. Duhuan's fingers twitched once, twice, then slowly, almost reluctantly, he reached toward her hand. Please, he murmured, voice low and raw. Just, give me your hand. The request was so soft, so pleading, it didn't sound like an order from a Mafia boss. It sounded like a man drowning reaching for the only thing that kept him afloat. Palisade hesitated. I don't know if that's a good idea. His jaw tightened as another tremor rushed down his arm. My body is overstimulated, he confessed. Everything woke up all at once. I need something to ground me. His eyes locked onto hers. I need you. The words made her breath catch. Her stomach fluttered, fear, confusion, and something else she didn't want to name. Slowly she placed her hand in his. His reaction was instant. Duhuan inhaled sharply, shoulders jerking, his entire body arching slightly like a man jolted with warmth for the first time in years. His fingers wrapped around hers, not possessive, not controlling, more like he feared she might vanish if he didn't hold on. Your touch? He whispered, eyes fluttering shut as if overwhelmed. It's warm. Palisade's brows furrowed. Isn't everyone's? Not to me, he said, shaking his head. Not for a long time. He swallowed hard, trying to compose himself. Since the bullet wound 3 years ago, I haven't felt cold, heat, pleasure, pain, nothing. Not even a heartbeat worth noticing. Nothing moved inside me. Not my pulse. Not my strength. Not even. He stopped abruptly. She waited. He opened his eyes, dark, burning, vulnerable. My manhood. His voice was barely a whisper. It was dead. My body refused to respond. Doctors called it permanent nerve trauma. Palisade stiffened, caught off guard. She parted her lips to respond, but he continued before she could speak. But the moment you touched me, he squeezed her hand gently, almost reverently. It woke up. I woke up. His men looked away, stunned and uncomfortable, giving their boss whatever privacy they could in the cramped space. Palisade stared at him, unable to process the magnitude of what he was saying. Sir, maybe it's temporary. Adrenaline. You were standing in the rain for a long time. It's not shock, he said firmly. His thumb brushed her knuckles. A simple touch, yet his breath trembled. My heart hasn't reacted like this in years. My nerves haven't fired like this. He shut his eyes, jaw clenching. My desire hasn't stirred. Not even once. Until you. The car made a soft turn, headlights painting streaks of light across his face. Water slid down his temples, his soaked hair clinging to his skin. His usual intimidating aura was fractured, replaced by something frighteningly human. Palisade felt a strange squeeze in her chest. "Why me?" she whispered. His eyes snapped open. "I don't know," he breathed. "But I'm going to find out." The air grew heavier. His men exchanged glances again but said nothing. Du-hwan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, still holding her hand as if it were the only steady thing in the spinning world. "I've had specialists from 7 countries examine me," he said. "Neurologists, psychologists, trauma experts, traditional healers. Everyone. They said the same thing: my body might never respond again." His gaze drifted to her face and it shook him. She looked so worried. So genuine. So unlike anyone he'd ever met. "They were wrong," he whispered. She swallowed. Maybe your nerves suddenly reconnected? It happens sometimes. Not like this." His voice deepened, not harsh but sure. "My entire body reacted the moment you touched me. Every nerve. Every cell. Everything that was dead inside me came alive." He exhaled shakily. "I can feel the warmth of your skin. I can feel my pulse again. And I can feel," his voice dropped lower, rougher, "my manhood responding to you." Her face flushed instantly. "Sir. I'm not saying this to embarrass you," he said, his gaze soft but intense. "I'm saying it because it means something. Something I cannot ignore." The car slowed as they approached a private underground entrance. Du-hwan finally, reluctantly, released her hand. But his fingers hovered near hers, trembling slightly like they didn't want to let go. "Where are we going?" Palisade asked, anxiety creeping into her stomach. His gaze locked onto her like a vow. "To my private medical facility." "What? Why?" "Because I need answers." His tone softened. "And I need you safe." Palisade blinked. "Safe? From what?" "From every rival who will want to use you against me the second they know what you've done." Her blood ran cold. "I didn't do anything." His voice dropped to a whisper, fragile and shaken. "You made me feel." The door opened. Rain and cold air rushed in. He paused at the doorway, turning to look at her, wet, confused, fragile in ways he wasn't used to seeing in anyone. "Don't disappear," he said quietly. "Not until I understand this." Palisade didn't know this man. Didn't know his world. Didn't know what she was stepping into. But the pain in his voice told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't a mafia boss making a demand. This was a wounded soul clinging to the first sign of life he'd felt in 3 years. She nodded slowly. "Okay." The breath he released sounded like relief, disbelief, and gratitude all tangled together. He stepped aside, offering her his hand again to help her out of the limousine. This time she didn't hesitate. When their palms met, his body reacted instantly, another sharp gasp, another tremor rushing through him. His voice cracked. "Thank you." And as they walked into the sterile brightness of the private clinic, hand in trembling hand, Palisade realized something terrifying. This wasn't going to be simple. It wasn't going to be safe. It wasn't going to be logical. It was going to be the beginning of something far deeper. Because the coldest man in Seoul, the man who hadn't felt anything for years, was now reacting to everything she did. And she had no idea why. The private medical facility didn't look like a clinic at all. It looked like a silent, white palace carved underground, sterile, bright, humming with invisible machines hidden behind frosted glass. Everything smelled of antiseptic and power. Palisade felt small in the middle of it. Cold air brushed her damp clothes. Her shoes squeaked against the polished floor. Every step felt like she was walking deeper into someone else's secrets. Dangerous secrets she wasn't supposed to exist in. Baek Du-hwan walked beside her. A man who normally commanded a room with icy silence. Now he walked with shoulders tight, breaths uneven, fingers flexing as though they weren't sure how to behave after being numb for years. He never once looked away from her. Not fully. Not long. As if she were the only anchor stopping him from collapsing into the past again. A door slid open automatically, revealing a private examination room. White. Bright. Too bright. A female doctor in her 50s stood waiting, sharp eyes, gray hair in a tidy bun, posture straight as a ruler. There was no fear in her gaze, which told Palisade one thing. She was one of the few people alive who could speak to Baek Du-hwan without trembling. "Boss," the doctor greeted calmly. "Your message was urgent. Symptoms resurfacing?" Du-hwan didn't answer immediately. Instead he stepped aside, revealing Palisade. I felt something, he said quietly. Too quietly. When she touched me. The doctor froze. Not in fear but in shock. Her gaze flicked from him to Palisade to his trembling hands. That's impossible, she said. Your nerve system has been unresponsive for 3 years. Du-hwan's jaw flexed. Check me. The doctor nodded gravely. Palisade took a step back. Maybe I should wait outside. No. The single word came from Du-hwan so quickly, so sharply, it made even the doctor pause. Palisade blinked. But. He turned to her, eyes storm-dark but burning with something human and raw. I need you here, he said. If you leave, it might stop. Her heart twisted. He sounded terrified. Terrified of going back to the emptiness he lived in for years. She swallowed hard. Okay. I'll stay. His shoulders dropped in visible relief. The doctor motioned for him to sit on the exam chair. Boss, shirt off. Du-hwan obeyed. Slowly. Silently. Palisade tried not to stare, but how could she not? 3 long scars cut across his torso, 2 knife wounds, 1 bullet hole near his heart. His skin was pale, muscled, but the scars told a story of a man who'd lived through hell and kept walking. The doctor pressed a stethoscope to his chest. No reaction. She pressed harder, tapping lightly. Feel this. No. She touched the old bullet scar gently. Here? No. She poked his palm with a blunt tool. Here? No. She pressed a cold metal strip against his stomach. Temperature? I can't feel it. The doctor sighed, frustrated. So far, everything remains unchanged. Then, Du-hwan lifted his gaze slowly, locking onto Palisade. Come here. Her breath caught. Not because the command was intimidating, but because of the emotion behind it. He wasn't asking for dominance. He was asking for hope. Palisade walked closer. His fingers hovered toward her like a man afraid to touch something too precious. Just your hand, he murmured. She placed her hand in his. Instantly, violently, his body reacted. His back straightened. His breath punched out of him. His throat trembled with a low groan he tried to swallow. His nerves fired like electricity running through his veins. The doctor gasped and stepped back. What? Boss, your pulse just spiked. This is unprecedented. Du-hwan's other hand shot forward, gripping the armrest of the chair so hard the metal groaned beneath his fingers. His entire chest rose and fell rapidly. I feel everything, he said through his teeth. Her warmth, the pressure, my heartbeat, my nerves, God, my nerves are firing. His voice was unraveling. The doctor rushed to her machine. This shouldn't be possible. Your nervous system was declared permanently damaged. Palisade tried to pull back her hand in panic. Du-hwan grabbed her wrist. Not roughly. Desperately. Don't, he breathed. His eyes lifted to hers, wet, trembling, burning with a fear she didn't know cold men could feel. If you let go, I'm scared it will go dark again. Her heart squeezed painfully. Palisade slowly intertwined her fingers with his. He inhaled sharply, jaw clenching, head tipping back just slightly. His hair fell over his eyes, droplets of water dripping down his neck. The doctor stared in disbelief. Your reaction is too strong. This level of nerve response should only happen if... She stopped herself. If what? Palisade whispered. The doctor hesitated, glancing between them. If your body recognizes her, she finally said. On a primal level. Palisade froze. Du-hwan's grip tightened faintly. What kind of recognition? She asked softly. The doctor exhaled. Some trauma survivors only reconnect their sensory system when their brain identifies a trigger strong enough to override the damage. Sometimes it's danger. Sometimes it's familiarity. And rarely, she looked at Du-hwan, rarely it's attraction. Palisade's heart jumped. Her breath stuck in her throat. Du-hwan's eyes opened slowly, his gaze dragging up her face like he was learning every line, every curve, every breath she took. Attraction, he murmured. To her. The doctor nodded. Or emotional interest. Subconscious imprinting. Bonding. Whatever it is, your nervous system is responding only to her. Palisade's cheeks warmed. But we just met. Your body doesn't care, the doctor said. Du-hwan lifted her hand to his lips. Not to kiss. To breathe against. Soft warmth touched her skin. Warmth she never expected from a man who looked carved from winter itself. I haven't felt my own heartbeat in 3 years, he whispered. Until you touched me. His jaw trembled. His voice broke. His eyes glistened again. Falisade's own chest tightened with emotion she couldn't name. The doctor cleared her throat. There's more. Duhwan looked up sharply. What? You said earlier, certain parts of your body responded. His expression flickered, half embarrassment, half relief. Yes. The doctor turned to Falisade. It means his autonomic response, his desire, also returned because of you. This is profound. It means his psychological and physical block was overridden by something powerful enough to jumpstart everything. Falisade looked away, face hot. Duhwan didn't. Look at me, he said softly. She did. Slowly. Carefully. Fearfully. His voice dropped lower. More vulnerable. More intimate than anything before. I don't know why it's you, he said. But I'm not letting this disappear. Falisade shook her head. I don't know if I can fix you. You already did. Her breath hitched. But what do you want from me? He held her hand tighter. Time, he whispered. Answers. And you not running from me? She stood frozen. He continued, voice trembling. I'm not asking you to stay forever. I'm asking you to stay, until I understand why my body chose you. Chosen. The word hit her too deeply. Falisade opened her mouth to speak, but the doctor cut in gently. We must run more tests, boss. Neurological scans. Sensory mapping. Emotional imaging. Fine, Duhwan said, eyes never leaving Falisade. But she stays, he added. Every step. Falisade swallowed. Are you sure? She whispered. Duhwan's voice cracked like ice breaking under heat. I haven't felt my manhood in 3 years, he said softly. I haven't felt anything in 3 years. He lifted her hand again, pressing it against his chest where his heart beat hard, too hard. But I feel everything when you're near. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Intimate. Heart-wrenching. Falisade slowly exhaled. Then I'll stay, she whispered. Duhwan closed his eyes in relief, actual relief, as though those 3 words lifted a weight he'd been carrying alone for years. The doctor stepped aside to prepare her machines. But Baek Duhwan kept holding Falisade's hand. Like she was the one miracle he never believed he'd receive. Rain kept drumming violently against the rooftop glass as if Seoul itself were trying to warn Falisade to run. But she didn't. Even as the storm hissed around them, even with her heartbeat ricocheting inside her ribs like a trapped bird, she stood there, facing the man who terrified every corner of the criminal underground. Baek Duhwan. The Korean Mafia boss whose enemies claimed he didn't bleed. The man everyone whispered had turned numb. The man who, only hours ago, had whispered to her with a shaking voice. I haven't felt my manhood in 3 years, until you. What did you do to me? He appeared again at the entrance of the rooftop greenhouse, shoulders drenched from the rain, hair dripping into his eyes, chest rising and falling like he'd run up the building. As if he needed to get back to her quickly. His gaze locked onto hers instantly. And something in him, something cold, disciplined and terrifying, seemed to fracture. Falisade. His voice was hoarse. I told you not to come out here alone. She swallowed. I needed air. No, he stepped closer. You were trying to escape. Her back straightened. Would you blame me? A muscle in his jaw flexed, the only sign she'd hit a nerve. I don't want to hurt you, he said. But I can't let you disappear. Not tonight. Why? She whispered. Why do I affect you so much? You said things earlier, things I don't understand. His breath left him in a raw, broken sound, as if she'd ripped open a sealed wound. Duhwan ran a trembling hand over his face. Because you remind my body that I'm alive. She blinked, confused, shaken. What does that mean? He turned away sharply, fists tightening. It means that for 3 years I felt nothing. Nothing in my chest, nothing in my bloodstream, nothing. His breath caught. Nothing in my manhood either. Heat flamed across her skin at the honesty of it. He wasn't speaking like a mafia boss. He was speaking like a man stripped of everything but truth. 3 years ago, he murmured, staring at the storm, someone put a bullet in me that wasn't meant to kill. It was meant to destroy the parts of me that could love, want, feel. Falisade stepped closer unconsciously. A bullet can't do that. His laugh was humorless. Not physically, but psychologically, emotionally. It can ruin you. He turned around slowly, eyes burning. I became numb. Intimacy didn't exist for me anymore. My body didn't respond. My mind didn't respond. I thought I was broken beyond repair. Rain thundered around them. Until you, Duhwan whispered. Falisade's breath caught as the weight of his confession settled around her. He took a hesitant step toward her, then another, until she felt the heat of him warming her chilled skin. His fingers lifted, stopping just short of touching her cheek. "I don't know what spell you cast," he said softly, "but the moment I touched your hand, everything inside me woke up. Every instinct. Every desire." She felt her heartbeat hammering. "I didn't do anything to you. You did." His voice dropped deeper, rougher. "You breathed. You stood in front of me. You looked at me. And my body remembered what it meant to be a man again." Her lips parted, stunned. "And I hate it," he whispered bitterly. "Because it terrifies me." The storm howled louder, almost swallowing his confession. She steadied her breathing. "Why does it scare you?" He exhaled sharply. "Because desire makes you vulnerable. And vulnerability gets you killed." Their eyes remained locked, his with fear he'd never admit to anyone else, hers with a tenderness she didn't know she could feel toward a man like him. Palisade took a small step closer. "You're not weak for feeling something." He stiffened. "I can't afford emotions. Everyone has emotions, Du-hwan." "But I'm not everyone," he growled. "I'm a mafia boss. If even one person knows you affect me, you become a target. If my enemies sense that I want you—" His voice broke. "They'll use you to destroy me." A chill crawled across her skin. "Is that why you tried to push me away earlier?" He nodded, his breath unsteady. "Yes." "But you couldn't," she said softly. And that shattered him. He closed the final distance between them, carefully, cautiously, like a man approaching something sacred. His hand hovered by her cheek again, trembling like he'd forgotten how to touch. "Every instinct in me says to protect you," he admitted. "But another part of me wants to pull you into me and never let you go." Her pulse raced. "Then what do you want right now? The man or the mafia boss?" His breath hitched. She had cornered him, emotionally, not physically, and he didn't know how to escape. Lightning flashed across his face, illuminating the rawness in his eyes. "I want," he whispered, "to feel you close to me, just for a moment. Even if it ruins me." Palisade didn't step closer. She didn't move at all. She simply stood still, offering him silent permission. With an exhale that sounded like surrender, Du-hwan lifted his hand and finally touched her cheek, slowly, reverently, as though she were something fragile. The warmth of his fingers traveled through her entire body. His thumb brushed her skin gently. Painfully gently. A man who'd broken bones with those same hands was now touching her as if she were the only softness left in his world. Palisade felt her breath catch. "You felt it?" His eyes darkened. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath. "This shouldn't feel like this." "What does it feel like?" she whispered. He didn't look away. He didn't lie. "Like I'm waking up from a 3-year coma. Like I'm breathing air for the first time. Like my body belongs to me again, but only when you're near." The confession punched the air out of her lungs. Du-hwan lowered his forehead to hers, eyes closed, their breaths mingling in the cold air. It wasn't a kiss. It was something deeper, a surrender without words. But the closeness unraveled her. "Du-hwan," she breathed. He shuddered. Her saying his name did something dangerous to him. His fingers slid to her jaw, caressing gently. "Don't say my name like that." "Like what?" she asked, whisper soft. "Like you want me." Her throat tightened. "And if I do?" His breath shook. "Don't tempt me." "I'm not tempting you. I'm telling you the truth." At that he pulled back, stunned. The storm wasn't loud enough to cover the silence between them. "You," he swallowed. "You feel something too?" She hesitated, just a heartbeat too long, and he read the answer in her eyes. His expression cracked open, raw and disbelieving. But then he stepped away abruptly, pacing, running his hand through his soaked hair in agitation. "No," he whispered to himself. "This can't happen. Not now. Not when I'm this unstable." Palisade felt a sharp ache twist in her chest, but she didn't move. "What are you afraid of?" she asked gently. He turned to her slowly, and the look in his eyes was devastating. "I'm afraid that if I take one more step toward you, I won't stop." Her breath quickened. "And if you don't stop?" she whispered. His voice dropped to a broken, husky confession. "Then I'll lose myself in you." He stared at her, tormented, yearning, terrified. And then, with a voice full of defeat, desire, and surrender all at once. "Palisade, you're the first woman who's made me feel like a man again." A long breath left him. "And that means you're the only one who can break me." The storm eventually softened, turning the rooftop greenhouse into a quiet world of dripping leaves, trembling glass, and two people standing too close to walk away from each other. Baek Doo-hwan didn't speak at first. He simply stared at Palisade like he was trying to memorize the shape of her, the softness of her breathing, the calm she somehow carried even in the middle of his chaos. His chest rose and fell sharply, as if just looking at her demanded effort. Palisade wasn't sure whether to move or stay frozen. Something about his eyes pinned her in place. Something vulnerable. Something electric. Finally he exhaled shakily. "Come with me," he said. His voice wasn't commanding this time. It was quiet. Almost pleading. She hesitated. "Where?" "Somewhere I can think," he muttered. "Somewhere the world won't interfere." He walked past her, brushing against her shoulder without meaning to. The accidental touch sent a shiver running down Palisade's spine. She followed slowly, unsure if this was wise. But something about him, something broken, something awakening, called to her. He led her down the stairs and into a private wing of his penthouse. A space no one else in his syndicate had ever entered. It was dimly lit, warm, and strangely peaceful. Not the lair of a feared mafia boss, but the home of a man who had been living like a ghost. Palisade stopped at the doorway, taking everything in. Muted lighting. Dark wood. Books scattered like he'd stopped caring. A fireplace flickering low. Doo-hwan stood in the center of the room, his back to her, fists clenched as though he was trying to force calm into himself. "You can sit," he said without turning around. Palisade didn't move. "Doo-hwan, why am I here?" His shoulders tensed. He turned slowly, and when he faced her, she froze. He wasn't wearing the cold mask anymore. He wasn't even wearing the calm one. His expression was raw, stormy, conflicted. "Because," he began softly, "tonight I can't pretend anymore." She felt her heart thud. He took a step toward her. "Tonight," he continued, "my body remembered something it wasn't supposed to remember again." Another step. "Tonight. I felt something I thought was dead." Another step, close enough to touch her but he didn't. Palisade swallowed. "And what do you want from me?" His eyes darkened, not with lust but with longing, fear, and need all tangled. "I want to understand why you woke me up." Her lips parted. "I didn't mean to." "I know," he said quietly. "That's the problem." He lifted a hand, then dropped it to his side again, as if touching her would ignite something he wasn't prepared to face. "I told myself for 3 years that I was broken. That nothing could reach me. Not desire. Not emotion. Nothing." His voice cracked. "But then you walked into my headquarters as if the universe was mocking me." Palisade's breath caught. "I didn't know any of this. I didn't want you to know." His jaw tightened. "I didn't want anyone to know." He turned away, pacing, running a hand through his still damp hair. "You don't understand, Palisade. Men like me aren't supposed to feel. Every emotion is a weakness. Every attachment is a danger. And every human needs connection," she whispered. He stopped walking. Her words sank deep. When he turned back, the emotion in his eyes nearly dropped her to her knees. "Do you know what you did to me?" he said quietly. She shook her head. "You touched my hand," he whispered, and the numbness vanished. Every vein in my body woke up. My chest tightened. My blood heated. My mind, my body, everything responded. Her pulse hammered. He stepped closer. This time he didn't stop until he was right in front of her. "I felt like a man again," he said. "For the first time in 3 years." His voice trembled. "And that scared me more than being shot ever did." Palisade felt her heart soften. "Doo-hwan, I'm not here to hurt you." He closed his eyes briefly as though the reassurance cut him open. When he opened them again he reached for her hand, slowly, carefully, and his voice was barely audible. "Let me hold your hand," he murmured. "Just that. Nothing more. I need to know if what I felt earlier was real, or if I imagined it." Palisade allowed her fingers to slip into his. The moment their skin connected, his breath hitched violently. His eyes widened like he'd been struck. His grip tightened involuntarily. A low, shuddering exhale escaped him. Not pleasure. Not pain. But relief. "God?" he whispered. "It's real." His thumb brushed the back of her hand, slow and reverent, as if he couldn't believe the sensation. Palisade felt heat pooling behind her ribs. "Doo-hwan." His gaze snapped to hers, intense and vulnerable. "Do you feel it too?" he asked. She didn't know what it was exactly, but she felt something. Something warm, undeniable, magnetic. So she nodded. Something inside him broke, quietly, painfully, beautifully. His grip on her hand softened, turning gentle, almost protective. "You don't understand what this means," he murmured. I thought that part of me was gone. I thought I would die without ever feeling anything again. But your presence, the sound of your voice, the way you look at me, it brings everything back. He bowed his head slightly, forehead almost touching hers. And it terrifies me. Palisade's voice was soft. Then tell me why. Because, he whispered, I've forgotten how to want something without destroying it. She felt her throat tighten. I'm not something to destroy. He lifted his head slowly, searching her eyes. No, you're not. And that's why I'm afraid to want you. The tension between them thickened, warm, intimate, electric. Du-Hwan lifted his free hand and hovered it near her cheek, stopping just short of touching. His voice broke. I want to understand what you've done to me. She didn't look away. And what do you think I've done? You brought me back to life, he whispered. And I don't know how to handle that. His fingers finally grazed her cheek. Palisade sucked in a breath. His touch was gentle, hesitant, almost reverent. Nothing like the ruthless mask he showed the world. He wasn't treating her like a possession. He wasn't treating her like an enemy. He was touching her like a man who hadn't felt warmth in years and was terrified this moment might disappear. Palisade, he breathed, tell me to stop if this feels wrong. She leaned into his hand just slightly. It doesn't. His eyes fluttered shut for a fraction of a second, like the permission unraveled him. When he opened them again they were softer, darker. His thumb brushed her cheek. Then let me feel this. His voice was a low ache. Just for tonight. He wasn't kissing her. He wasn't holding her. He wasn't asking for anything more. He simply wanted to feel human again. Palisade placed her other hand over his chest. A bold move she didn't plan. His entire body stiffened in surprise. Her palm rested directly over his heartbeat. A slow, heavy rhythm that grew stronger under her touch. His breath caught. His eyes widened. His voice trembled. Palisade, don't. Why? She whispered. Because my heart is responding too fast, he admitted. And if it responds any faster, I won't be able to stop what comes next. Her pulse jumped. And what comes next? She asked softly. His gaze dropped to her lips, slowly, painfully, then snapped back to her eyes with restraint so fierce, it shook him. You, he whispered. You come next. The air between them vibrated. But instead of kissing her, instead of pulling her into his arms, Baek Du-Hwan did something far more devastating. He stepped back. Just one step. But it was enough to make her breath catch and her heart twist. I can't lose control, he said. Not until I know I can protect you. Palisade swallowed. Protect me from what? His expression darkened, all softness evaporating. From myself, he said. And from the people who would kill to break me. He let her hand slip from his, slowly, reluctantly, like every nerve in him resisted the separation. I need time, he murmured. But don't think for a second that I don't feel what's happening between us. He looked at her like she was the only light in a world full of shadows. But whatever this is, whatever you've awakened in me, I'm not done with it. And I'm not done with you. The next morning came quietly, too quietly. Palisade woke in one of the guest suites Baek Du-Hwan had assigned her, sunlight spilling across the silk sheets like a soft warning. The room was beautiful, larger than any apartment she'd ever lived in, but something in the air felt off. Tense. Thin. As if the walls themselves were holding their breath. She dressed quickly and stepped out into the hallway. Only then did she notice the shift. The entire penthouse was on lockdown. Men in black suits stood in corners. Weapons were discreet but present. Earpieces buzzed quietly. Everyone moved with urgency and fear. Palisade's stomach tightened. Something had happened. Then she saw him, Baek Du-Hwan, standing near the glass railing overlooking the city, sleeves rolled up, jaw clenched, voice deep and sharp as he issued orders. Double the perimeter around the building. Find out exactly who leaked the footage. No negotiations. If they want blood, they'll drown in their own before they touch her. Her breath caught at the last line. He was talking about her. His eyes flicked up, sensing her presence before she spoke. It was like his body could detect her. Palisade. Her name on his lips was softer than the look in his eyes, which were storm-dark, protective, dangerous. She stepped closer. What's going on? He watched her for a moment too long, his gaze scanning her face as if checking she was unharmed, before he answered. There was a breach. A breach? She repeated, confused. What do you mean? Du-Hwan exhaled slowly, controlling his temper with visible effort. Someone recorded us together on the rooftop last night. Palisade froze. What? Someone invaded my private space. Someone close. His voice sharpened. And they saw me with you. Falisade's heartbeat stumbled. Why is that a problem? He turned fully to face her now, intensity hitting her like a wave. Because, Falisade, you're my weakness. Her lips parted. And my enemies just found out. A chill slipped down her spine. He came closer, too close, lowering his voice so none of his men would hear. I told you last night that wanting you puts you in danger. I wasn't exaggerating. His tone wasn't angry, it was terrified. Falisade swallowed hard. What do they want? You, he said simply. Leverage. Control. A way to bring me to my knees. She stared at him, stunned. That's insane. I'm nobody to them. A muscle in his jaw ticked. You're not nobody. He stepped closer, gaze flickering with emotion he tried to hide. You are the first thing in 3 years that's made me feel alive. They saw that. And now they want to exploit it. Falisade felt warmth spread across her chest despite the fear. So what do we do? She asked quietly. Duhwan took a deep breath. You stay with me. Her pulse jumped. What? You heard me. His voice softened dangerously. You stay here. With me. At my side. Under my protection. I won't let you walk out that door. She stared at him. Duhwan, you can't lock me inside like a prisoner. I'm not locking you in, he murmured, stepping closer, lowering his gaze to hers. I'm locking danger out. Falisade's breath tangled. I can protect myself, she insisted. He gave a humorless half-laugh. Not from the type of men who want you now. Her chest tightened. And what about you? You're the one they want to hurt. No, his voice went quiet. They want to hurt me through you. The words broke something in her. He reached out, slowly, cautiously, and touched her wrist. The same place he had touched last night when everything inside him had awakened. His fingers were warm. His touch intentional. Let me protect the only thing in my life that feels real, he whispered. Her breath shook. You're scaring me. I'm scared too, he admitted. Those 3 words were more shocking than the breach. Baek Duhwan, terrifying Mafia boss, was afraid. For her. He lifted her hand gently, almost reverently, and held it as though it steadied him. Falisade, listen to me. His voice softened, turned raw. I know I told you last night that I can't lose control. But right now, I don't care if I lose every ounce of control I've ever had. I only care that you're safe. Her chest tightened painfully. Duhwan, she whispered. Come sit down. You're shaking. He blinked, almost surprised, then looked down at his hands. He was shaking. She guided him to the low leather sofa near the fireplace. He sat heavily, running both hands through his hair. This is my fault, he muttered. I should have pushed you away before I felt anything. Falisade's heart clenched. Do you regret what you felt? He looked up sharply. No, he said almost angrily. That's the problem. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, trying to catch his breath. I haven't felt desire. Or emotion. Or manhood. His voice cracked slightly. For 3 years. The confession hung between them, still powerful, still intimate. And then you appeared. And everything woke up. Falisade felt heat curl low in her stomach, not desire but something deeper. A connection. You didn't choose to feel that, she said softly. His eyes lifted to hers. No, he agreed. But I choose what I do with it. He reached for her hand again, softer this time. A touch that shook him. I'm choosing to protect you, he said. Even if it means war. Falisade sighed and sat beside him. Her shoulder brushed his arm accidentally. That small contact made his breath stutter. He looked down at her like she was a miracle he didn't know how to hold. You don't have to fight alone, she whispered. His eyes softened. But I want to. Why? His answer was instant and devastating. Because you matter to me. She inhaled sharply. Duhwan. No, he lifted a hand, gently touching her cheek with his knuckles. Don't argue with me about your worth. Not today. His thumb brushed her skin, slow and aching. You don't understand what your presence does to me, he whispered. It calms me. It anchors me. It makes the pain feel distant. She leaned into his touch without meaning to. His eyes darkened. Falisade. Her name left his mouth like a warning. Or a prayer. Before anything more could happen. Before he could act on the closeness. Before he could do something they'd both struggled to undo. A loud alarm blared through the penthouse. Duhwan shot to his feet instantly. His men rushed into the hall. Boss, intruders on level 42. Falisade's pulse spiked. Du Huan stepped in front of her instinctively. Stay behind me. The softness was gone. The vulnerability tucked away. Baek Du Huan, the Mafia boss, returned in full force. But just before he left the room to face the threat, he turned back to her, eyes burning. Falisade, he said quietly, urgently. If anything happens to me, don't run. Don't hide. Wait for me. I'll come back to you. Her heart nearly broke. Du Huan. But he was already gone. The door shut. And Falisade felt, for the first time, what it truly meant to care about a dangerous man. The rain didn't stop. It slammed against the windows of the penthouse like fists, restless, angry, demanding to be heard. But inside the room, everything was too quiet. Too still. Too full. Falisade stood near the balcony doors, arms wrapped around herself as if trying to hold in everything that had been unraveling since the night she met Baek Du Huan. The city lights flickered on her skin like trembling stars. Behind her, she sensed him before she saw him. The slow, hesitant footsteps, the breath that broke halfway as though carrying years of weight. Falisade, Baek Du Huan said softly. She didn't turn. Not because she didn't want to see him, but because seeing him always made something inside her shift. Something too heavy, too tender, too dangerous. His voice trembled again. Look at me, please. She finally turned her head, and the moment her eyes met his, she froze. The Mafia boss, the man who commanded an empire whose name made grown men panic, looked shattered. His hair was still damp from the rain, his black dress shirt clinging to muscles drawn tight with emotion. But it was his eyes that caught her breath. Dark, unsteady, almost terrified. Baek Du Huan, she whispered. He swallowed hard, jaw flexing like he was fighting a war inside his own throat. Minjae told me everything. Her heart lunged. Everything what? That you were hurt. That it was my past enemies who cornered you outside the gallery. His fingers curled into fists. That you tried to hide it from me. Falisade's breath shook. I didn't want you to blame yourself. I do blame myself, he growled softly, stepping toward her. I blame myself for every bruise you've ever had to hide. Every fear you carried. Every time you walked home alone even when you were trembling. His voice broke. I should have protected you long before this. She took a slow step toward him. You protect your whole world, Du Huan. Sometimes you forget that you're allowed to need protecting too. His breath hitched, sharp, raw, almost as if the words stung. Don't say things like that, he whispered. You don't know what it does to me. What does it do to you? She asked gently. He moved closer, close enough that the warmth of his body wrapped around her like a second skin. His hand lifted toward her cheek but stopped in midair, trembling. It makes my chest hurt, he admitted in a strained voice. It makes my hands shake. It makes me feel like I'm not made of steel the way I'm supposed to be. You're human, she whispered. No, his voice cracked. Not before you. She frowned, confused. He let out a broken laugh, an exhausted, painful sound. Do you know what I used to be called? His eyes darkened with shame. The frozen sun. She tensed. I didn't feel anything, he continued. No warmth. No desire. No pulse. No manhood. His throat tightened. My body refused to react. For 3 years I felt nothing. Doctors said it was trauma. Nerves shutting down. My mind protecting itself, by killing everything inside me. Falisade felt her knees weaken. He took a shaking breath. But then you walked into that hospital room, this terrified, stubborn woman arguing with a nurse because she refused pain meds, and suddenly, his voice dropped to a whisper. Everything woke up. Falisade's lips parted, her heart pounding harshly. Du Huan. He finally touched her, his hand sliding to the back of her neck, fingers gentle but desperate. I didn't understand it. I hated it. I wanted to push you away, but my body wouldn't listen. His forehead pressed against hers. You touched my hand once and it felt like someone restarted my heart. She shivered, breath catching. You smiled at me, he whispered, and something in me cracked open so violently I couldn't breathe. And when you walked away that day, I almost chased you like a madman. Her fingers curled into his shirt unconsciously. Why didn't you? Because, he breathed, I didn't know how to want someone without destroying them. Her throat grew tight. You didn't destroy me. He gave a fragile smile. I'm trying not to. Quiet filled the space between them, thick, trembling, intimate. Then his voice fell even lower. Minjae thinks I'm afraid of you. She blinked. Afraid? Why? He pulled back slightly, eyes searching her face. Because you look at me like I'm still worth something. And I don't know how to accept that. Her chest tightened painfully. You are worth something. To me. Why? He murmured in disbelief. Why would you choose someone like me? A man who's hurt people? A man who's been numb for years? A man who's still learning how to feel. She stepped closer until her lips brushed his ear. Because the man you think you are, is not the man I see. He swallowed hard, shutting his eyes. And who do you see? He asked, voice trembling. A man who feels too deeply, she whispered. A man who protects too much. A man who tries so hard to stay cold because he's afraid his warmth will burn the people he loves. His breath choked. You didn't break, she whispered. You just learned to bury your heart. And I'm not afraid to dig it up. The sound he made was somewhere between a gasp and a sob. His forehead fell to her shoulder, his entire body shaking with the emotion he had caged so long. She held him. She didn't say anything, didn't rush him, didn't shrink away. She let him be weak. She let him be human. Minutes passed, long, tense, fragile minutes, before he finally lifted his head again. His eyes were glassy, rimmed in red, as though he had fought the tears back with everything in him. Then he whispered the words she never expected to hear. I haven't felt my manhood in 3 years, until you, he confessed, voice trembling. What did you do to me, Palisade? His voice broke. Why did you wake everything I worked so hard to bury? Her breath faltered. But before she could speak, he pulled away, running a shaking hand through his hair, pacing like he was losing himself. This is insanity, he whispered. I want to be near you every second. I want to protect you from everyone, including myself. I want you in my arms, in my home, in my world, even though that world is stained with blood. He turned to her, eyes burning. Tell me how to stop wanting you, he begged in a raw whisper. Because I can't. I can't control it. I can't fight it anymore. Her voice shook. Maybe you're not supposed to fight it. He froze. I'm not asking you to be perfect, she whispered. I'm asking you to let me in. His breath shuddered. Then he moved, slow, deliberate, as though approaching something sacred. His hands cupped her face gently, reverently, like she was the first thing in his life he wasn't afraid to break. Then tell me this, he whispered. If I let you in, will you stay? Her heart jumped painfully. Do you want me to? He closed his eyes, the confession trembling out of him like an earthquake. Yes, he whispered. More than anything. A soft inhale escaped her lips. Then she touched his cheek, sliding her thumb over his jaw. Then stop running, she whispered. Something inside him snapped. His hands tightened in her hair as he pulled her against him, not with hunger but with raw urgency, like a drowning man clinging to the only breath he trusted. Their lips met, not explosive, not rushed, but slow, deep, trembling. A kiss that tasted like pain and healing all at once. A kiss that said everything he never dared to speak. When he finally broke the kiss, his voice was barely a breath. Don't give up on me, he whispered. She touched her forehead to his. I won't. He let out a shaky exhale, one that sounded like surrender. Like a man who had finally stopped running from his own heart. Morning came quietly. Not softly, nothing in Baek Doo-hwan's world was ever soft, but quietly, as if even the sun understood that something fragile had taken place during the night and didn't dare intrude too loudly. Palisade woke slowly, her eyelashes fluttering as she shifted against warmth, solid, steady, radiating heat like a living furnace. Her face rested on a bare chest, strong and perfectly rigid except for the slow, controlled rise and fall of breath. Baek Doo-hwan. She froze. Not because she was afraid, but because the man holding her was too still, too tense. He hadn't slept. Her hand moved gently across his abdomen, and she felt the way his muscles tightened instantly, almost reflexively, like a soldier hearing footsteps outside a locked door. You're awake? She whispered. Baek Doo-hwan's hand slid up her spine, stopping at the base of her neck. His voice was rough, low, and tired in a way she had never heard from him. I didn't close my eyes, he admitted. Why? He hesitated. His fingers grazed her shoulder as if trying to memorize it. Because I was afraid, he said quietly. Her chest tightened. Afraid of what? That I'd wake up, and you'd be gone. She lifted herself enough to see his face. The morning light spilled across his sharp cheekbones, revealing exhaustion carved into every line. His dark eyes were glassy, haunted. Doo-hwan, she whispered, brushing her fingers lightly against his jaw. I told you I'm not going anywhere. That's the problem, he murmured. Her breath caught. What do you mean? He exhaled heavily, looking up at the ceiling as if the words were too dangerous to deliver straight to her face. My world isn't built for women like you. My life doesn't come with guarantees. I can't promise safety. I can't promise peace. His jaw tightened. And last night when I saw you injured, I realized something. She waited. I realized I have no idea how to keep you safe. His hand gripped her waist gently but firmly as if anchoring himself. And that terrifies me more than any enemy ever has. Palisade lowered herself back onto his chest, listening to the new, frantic rhythm of his heartbeat. You don't have to protect me alone, she whispered. He shifted, instantly shaking his head. Yes, he said, voice hoarse. I do. Because if anything happens to you, I'll burn this entire city to the ground. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Not because of the threat, but because of the truth behind it. Du Huan, she whispered, you don't have to face everything alone. He laughed softly, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was tired, broken, vulnerable. Alone is all I've ever been. She sat up fully, straddling his waist so he had no choice but to meet her eyes. His hands immediately latched onto her hips, protective, almost instinctual, as if he feared she would slip away. You're not alone anymore, she said firmly. His Adam's apple bobbed. You say that now, he whispered. But when you see how dark my life really is. I've already seen enough, she interrupted. And I'm still here. He inhaled sharply, as if her words were knives cutting through armor he'd worn his entire life. Silence settled between them, heavy, charged, trembling with everything neither of them knew how to control. Then, Baek Duhwan's hand slid up her side slowly, deliberately, as if he needed to reassure himself she was real. If you stay, he murmured, you'll have to take all of me. Palisade swallowed. All of you. His eyes darkened with something unspoken. Something raw. My darkness, he whispered. My ugliness. My violence. My past. My vulnerabilities. My fears. My desires. Her breath trembled. And my heart, he finished softly. The room stilled. Palisade's fingers curled around his wrists. Duhwan, all I've ever wanted was for you to trust me. He looked at her long, too long, like he was searching for any sign of doubt she might be hiding. Then his voice dropped to a whisper so soft it almost disappeared into the morning air. Then don't run when I show you who I really am. She leaned down, her lips brushing the corner of his mouth. Try me. Something in him snapped. Not violently. Not desperately. But with a surrender so deep it pulled a quiet groan from his throat. His hand slid into her hair, guiding her down as he kissed her, slow, reverent, consuming. The kind of kiss that said all the words he still couldn't speak. The kind of kiss that said you're mine, and I don't know how to breathe around that truth. When he broke the kiss, his forehead pressed against hers, his breath unsteady. I need to show you something, he whispered. She blinked. Now? Yes. His voice was different now. Harder. Steeled with purpose. He sat up, pulling her with him. She slid off his lap reluctantly as he stood, grabbing a dark shirt from the floor. He buttoned it quickly but left the top open, revealing the defined muscles of his chest. His movements were stiff, tense in a way that made her heart pound. Where are we going? She asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he crossed the room and opened a hidden panel she hadn't noticed before on the far wall, a concealed elevator door made of reinforced steel. Du Huan? She whispered, suddenly nervous. He finally looked at her, his expression unreadable. You said you wanted all of me, he said. I'm going to give you that chance. The elevator opened. He held out his hand. Palisade hesitated only for a second before placing her hand in his. His grip tightened instantly. They stepped inside. The elevator descended deeper than she expected, far below the building's parking levels. The numbers on the small display went negative. Her stomach flipped. Where are we going? She asked again. Baek Duhwan finally spoke. To the part of my world I've kept hidden from everyone, he said softly. The place that turned me into the man you see now. The elevator stopped. The doors slid open. Cold air rushed in first. Then silence. Then a massive underground room revealed itself, dimly lit by long overhead bulbs. Metallic walls. Locked weapon cases. Digital screens. Surveillance monitors. Rows of documents. Tactical maps. And a long glass table with old scars of violence carved into it. It wasn't a room. It was a war room. And it was the heart of the Mafia empire. Palisade's breath left her body. Baek Duhwan stepped out first, his voice deepening into a tone he rarely used with her. This, he said quietly, is who I am. She walked beside him slowly, absorbing everything. You didn't bring me here before, she whispered. No one comes here, he said. Not even my lieutenants. Only Min-jae and I. Why bring me now? He turned toward her, eyes burning. Because I can't protect you from this world if you don't know it exists. Her throat tightened. He stepped closer, cupping her jaw. And because, he whispered, if you're going to stay with me, you'll need to understand the darkness you're walking into. Palisade swallowed hard. Then show me. His breath hitched softly, surprised, shaken by her courage. Then he nodded. He moved behind the glass table and pressed a fingerprint scanner. The table surface split open mechanically, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, photos, files, bloodstained notes, syringes, chains, a knife with dried rust, a cracked silver ring, a torn bundle of black cloth. Palisade's eyes widened. Duhwan, what is all this? He didn't answer at first. Then slowly, painfully, this is every piece of me that I've tried to bury, he whispered. Everything I swore no woman would ever see. She felt her chest ache. And you're showing me now because? His voice trembled. Because I'm done hiding from you. Her breath caught. He reached into the compartment and picked up the cracked silver ring. He held it out to her, on his palm like an offering. This, he whispered, belonged to my father. The man who broke me long before the world ever tried. Palisade swallowed hard. Duhwan. He shook his head gently. No. Let me say it. Let me give you the truth even if it destroys whatever chance I have with you. She stepped closer. He met her eyes and the rawness there made her knees weaken. If you want my heart, he whispered, you'll have to take the whole man, including the parts even I can't forgive. Palisade reached up and touched his cheek. Her voice was soft but unwavering. Then start telling me everything. I'm not leaving. Baek Duhwan's breath shook, almost a silent sob of relief. He closed his eyes. And for the first time, he began to tell her what happened in the 3 years he lost his manhood, his desire, his humanity. The chapter ends with his voice breaking. Palisade, this is the part of my story no one survives listening to. Baek Duhwan's voice echoed through the underground war room like a confession dragged directly from his ribs, heavy, trembling, and raw. Palisade stood in front of him, her hands cold, her heart pounding so loud she could hear it vibrate in her ears. 3 years ago, he began, fingers tightening around the cracked silver ring, my father tried to turn me into a monster. Palisade flinched. Not at the words, but at the way his voice cracked, as though he was choking on memories sharp enough to bleed. He paced slowly, his aura shifting, no longer the Mafia king the world feared, but a man tortured by his own past. He sent me on a mission. A trap. He wanted to test me. To break me. To see if I could become his weapon. His breath shook. But I wasn't the target. Min-jae was. Palisade's eyes widened. Min-jae. Baek Duhwan nodded painfully. My father wanted to eliminate him. The twin he considered weak. The one he said felt too much. He clenched his fists. But I got there first. I tried to protect my brother, and I paid the price. He lifted his shirt. Palisade gasped. A long scar cut across his lower abdomen, a wound deep enough to have ended him. This was the blade my father buried in me when I protected Min-jae, he said in a hollow voice. It damaged nerves. Damaged everything. Doctor said I would live. But the rest of me died. Palisade felt her entire world tilt. So for 3 years, she whispered. For 3 years, he said, I couldn't feel desire. Couldn't feel warmth. Couldn't feel like a man. His throat tightened. I didn't want anyone to touch me. Look at me. Wake me. His eyes lifted, burning, trembling. Until you. She felt tears sting her eyes. Baek Duhwan. He took a step toward her. Then another. Slow. Controlled. Like every step peeled open a wound he spent years stitching shut. When you walked into my hospital room that day, he whispered, I felt something. A spark. A pulse. His voice dropped. My manhood woke before my heart did. Her knees weakened. But I ran, he said. I hid. I convinced myself it was temporary. A hallucination. A glitch. His voice broke. Until I saw you again and my body, my soul, remembered you instantly. He lifted her hand. Gently. Worshipfully. And then I realized, he whispered, eyes closed. It was never about my body. It was about you. Palisade felt something inside her shatter into 1,000 trembling pieces. But before she could speak, an alarm suddenly buzzed from the far wall. Loud. Piercing. Baek Duhwan's head snapped toward the screen as a red warning flashed. Intrusion detected, perimeter breached. What the hell? He whispered, instantly shifting into Mafia mode. Min-jae's voice crackled over the speaker. Hyung, Palisade isn't safe. They found the building. They're coming in through the lower floors. Baek Do-hwan's blood iced. Who? He snapped. Min-jae's voice hardened. Father's loyalists. Baek Do-hwan's breath stopped. The past he'd just confessed had come crawling out of the grave to finish what it started. He grabbed Palisade's wrist. We're leaving. Now. But Palisade pulled back. Baek Do-hwan, wait. No, he said firmly, gripping her waist with both hands. You're not staying here a second longer. You don't understand how dangerous they. The lights flickered. The floor vibrated. A distant boom echoed through the underground levels. Palisade's eyes widened with fear. Baek Do-hwan, is that? Explosives. His tone sharpened. They're trying to obliterate the lower entrances. Her hands trembled. But Baek Do-hwan didn't hesitate. He pulled her close, his body covering hers instinctively. You follow everything I say. No questions, he commanded, his voice dark with a fear he couldn't hide. If you get separated from me. I won't, she whispered. He grabbed her face with both hands, eyes burning into hers with an intensity she'd never seen. You listen to me, he breathed, voice breaking. If anything happens. He couldn't finish. He pressed his forehead to hers. And whispered the most vulnerable words she'd ever heard from him. If I ever lose you, I will lose myself. Her breath hitched on a sob. Baek Do-hwan. No, he said again, voice unsteady. You are not just someone I want. His thumb brushed her cheek with a desperation that made her heart twist. You are the woman who brought me back to life. The woman who woke something in me I thought was dead. I can survive bullets, betrayals, scars. His eyes glistened. But I cannot survive a world where you are gone. Before she could speak, the room shook violently. Sparks burst from the ceiling. Boots thundered outside the steel doors. Baek Do-hwan's grip tightened around her waist. Stay behind me. Palisade's voice trembled. Baek Do-hwan, Please, he begged softly. For once, let me protect the one thing I fear losing. His plea silenced her. The doors slammed open. 5 armed men stormed in. Take her, one of them shouted. Baek Do-hwan's entire body went cold. Not again. Not again. Not after everything he endured. He stepped in front of Palisade, expression transforming from vulnerable to lethal. You're not touching her, he growled. The fight exploded instantly. Baek Do-hwan moved like a storm, silent, deadly, vicious. His fists cracked against skulls. His elbows shattered ribs. He moved with the fury of a man who had spent years with his emotions trapped under ice, and now that ice had shattered, all that remained was fire. But there were too many of them. And they weren't attacking him. They were circling Palisade. Baek Do-hwan saw it too late. One man grabbed her arm. Another moved behind her. A third tried to throw a sack over her head. No! Baek Do-hwan roared, his voice tearing from his chest like an animal. He slammed into the attackers with the force of a man fighting not for victory, but for oxygen, because she was his oxygen. Palisade struggled, kicking, fighting with everything inside her, but one man yanked her close, cold steel pressing to her neck. Baek Do-hwan froze. Drop your weapon, the man barked. Baek Do-hwan lifted his hand slowly, breathing hard, eyes shaking. Let her go, he said in a dangerously low voice. Let her go and I'll. You'll what? The man sneered. Join your father? He wants her dead, Baek Do-hwan. She's the reason you betrayed him. Palisade's breath stopped. Baek Do-hwan's entire body stiffened with horror. That's a lie, he snarled. No, the man said. He said you were weak. That a woman revived your manhood and ruined your discipline. Baek Do-hwan's eyes turned murderous. You blame her, he whispered, for waking something human in me? The man smirked. We blame her, for making you soft. Baek Do-hwan's voice dropped, deadly quiet. You think love made me soft? His jaw clenched. No. It made me dangerous. He moved in one impossibly fast motion. Gunshot. Scream. Silence. The man holding Palisade collapsed to the floor. Baek Do-hwan didn't blink. He didn't speak. He simply grabbed Palisade and pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she felt his heartbeat slamming violently against her cheek. Palisade, he breathed, voice filled with shattered terror. Are you hurt? Are you bleeding? Did they? I'm okay, she whispered shakily. I'm okay. He pulled back just enough to see her face, cupping her cheeks with both hands. His thumbs trembled uncontrollably. I almost lost you, he whispered, voice cracking. I can't do that again. I can't breathe when you're not safe. I can't exist in a world where you're in danger because of me. She shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. Baek Do-hwan? No, his forehead pressed to hers. I don't care about my empire. I don't care about my name. I don't care about bloodlines or legacy or revenge. His breath trembled. I only care about you. Her hand slid up his chest, gripping the fabric of his shirt tightly. You won't lose me, she whispered. He shook his head, choking on emotion. You're the only thing I've ever wanted to keep. He kissed her, desperately, fiercely, like a man reattaching a piece of himself he'd almost lost. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was raw, consuming, soaked in fear and relief. When they finally broke apart, breathless, trembling, Baek Do-hwan pulled her into his arms again. From now on, he whispered against her hair, you're my home, my heart, my reason. And I will burn every enemy, every legacy, every shadow in my world, if it means you stay alive. Palisade melted into his chest. Safe. Protected. Wanted. Love. The war room was quiet again, bodies on the ground, smoke lifting toward the ceiling. But in that moment, in Baek Do-hwan's trembling arms, Palisade knew something deep and undeniable. He hadn't just chosen her. He had surrendered to her. Completely. The past no longer owned him. Fear no longer ruled him. And the man who hadn't felt his own manhood, his emotions, or his soul for 3 years, had finally decided he wanted to live again. Because of her.